This is HBR News number 447. RIP Akira Toriyama, girl hospitalized by DEI, Gamergate 2, Sweet Baby Boogaloo, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello everyone and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of this absurdity, which is a lot and it's constantly piling on, so that you are not consumed by it. I am your host, Brian Martinez, and I'm joined by, as always, my lovely co-hosts, Hannah Wallen and Dr. Ranimer Cam. We have a great show lined up for you guys today, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat as well as the comment section. On this week's HBR News show, we're going to be talking about the latest regarding the case of the armorer from Rust and the unfortunate accident that occurred on the set of that film. The passing of manga and anime titan Akira Toriyama. A girl is hospitalized after a brutal assault, and there is some information about this that is not really being shared that much that I thought is worth bringing up, and more. So stick around; it's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. So on this week's patron-only show, in honor of everything that's been going on regarding Gamergate 2 and Sweet Baby Inc., etc. There is this article from Dual Shockers, which is supposedly one of our trusted sources for games journalism. And it is about another mod that is apparently bothering this person, Jack Coleman. And the title of the article is Baldur's Gate 3 mods that glow up faces are my pet peeve. The forcing of conventional beauty standards on everything is tiring. So we'll find out what he has to say about, you know, what people do with their own property in the privacy of their own home and how that is just like driving him crazy. I mean, I'm assuming it's an XY because the name is Jack Coleman. But what do I know? I'm just a bigot. I'm asking too many questions.
Are there any trusted sources in games journalism anymore? Is that a thing? Is there any? I thought they went extinct like 10 years ago. The only one is Gamergate.
Yeah, well, one would think, but apparently they're still fighting for relevance, and I mean, they are fighting hard, but we'll get to that in a little bit. And if you guys want to join us for that patron-only content, you have to become a Badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, where you'll be able to enjoy hours and hours of additional content, which includes other patron shows and some videos that, you know, like Allison or Prim Reaper or others are putting out before they are ready. And so this will give you like early access, and you can even be sort of like, you know, involved in helping Allison with feedback on things. But there's also lots of groups that, you know, like where we have a writer's retreat, we have little clubs, we do have game nights, we have movie nights, etc. So there's lots going on in the Discord server. It's very active with lots of fun activities. So to do that, go to feedthebadger.com and set up a monthly subscription, or you can do it on our Patreon, which is also linked in the description. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we've been removed from the mainstream internet space like YouTube, then find our content at badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com, or you can go to honeybadgerradio.com, because that is where our content lives. All right, so without further ado, we are going to get into today's stories. So first, we have a little follow-up that we just have to get that out of the way. So Alec Baldwin, in case you guys don't remember, accidentally killed someone on the set of a film called Rust, or at least I don't think it's ever gonna come out now, but so the Hannah Gutierrez Reed is the name of the woman who was the armorer. This is the person that's supposed to prepare the props for for filming and for the job. She was the armorer on the set of Rust when Alec Baldwin shot a gun with live ammunition that killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins. The jury deliberation lasted 3 hours at a New Mexico courthouse. Gutierrez Reed faces 18 months in prison and up to $5,000 in fines. That's pretty generous. According to Special Prosecutor Carrie Morrissey in her closing comments, quote, Hannah Gutierrez knew that Baldwin was loose. She knew it. She didn't do anything about it, even though it was her job. It was her job. It is her job to say to an A-list actor, if in fact that's what you want to call him, hey, you can't behave that way with those firearms. That is her job. That is what they pay her for. That is the job that she applied for. That is the job that she accepted. Did she mention that that's her job? Sorry, it's a weird quote because she's repeating herself quite a bit. Gutierrez Reed's lawyers said in response that, quote, whoever put that live round on set and then Mr. Baldwin in the end going off script and doing what he did, those are outside events outside of Miss Gutierrez Reed's control that she didn't know was going to happen.
Now, far be it from me to insinuate that Alec Baldwin got away with murder. To repeat, I would never even insinuate that Alec Baldwin got away with murder. I wouldn't even insinuate that he got away with manslaughter. The courts have spoken and the courts never lie. The only thing that possibly can have happened here is a carriage of justice. The wholly uncomplicated live birth of a perfectly healthy bouncing baby of justice. Nobody was thrown anywhere, especially not under a bus. There just happened to be a bus, and somebody other than Alec Baldwin just happened to find themselves under that bus. Now that we've established that this incident was entirely the fault of Hannah Gutierrez Reed, now that we've established that the buck stops with her, is there any chance we could count how many bucks are at play here and how many directions from which those bucks might be traveling? Was Hannah Gutierrez Reed a diversity hire? Was she there because of her vagina or whatever it is she identifies as having? Did this matter come up in court at any point? I'll go ahead and make an educated guess that the answer we're being given to all of these questions is no, of course not. That never happens. I mean, it does happen and it's a good thing, but it can't happen here. It would never happen here. What, in Hollywood? Bastion of meritocracy that it is. So that there's no way that the phenomenon we call DEI was the one that got away with manslaughter on this occasion. I suppose it's a compound impossibility that Alec Baldwin and communism both got away with killing someone that day. And yeah, maybe not. Maybe DEI isn't an official doctrine in the corridors of Hollywood, at least not this particular corridor. They're not being incentivized to hire incompetent women into positions they have no business occupying, because they do it already, voluntarily. They're ahead of the curve like that. They've been marginalizing and demonizing men since before it was cool, never mind mandated. They haven't had to be not so gently persuaded into it like Boeing has. And I'm sure it's a coincidence that so many planes are falling to pieces mid-flight at the moment. And I'm sure if some old white guy blows the whistle on what's happening, it's another amazing coincidence if he becomes inconsolably suicidal as a result of his forthright and highly inconvenient honesty regarding the situation. To repeat and reiterate, no one ever gets away with murder, especially not communist revolutionaries who are determined to turn society inside out by all measures and at all costs. I would never insinuate such a harebrained conspiracy theory. And even though I can assure you I'm not suicidal, I'm sure if I die anytime soon, it will be from the leading cause of death among all demographics and age groups right now, a coincidence. Yeah, thank you again for not making us famous. Oh, merciful gods of RNG, your benevolence is keeping us alive. You know, the Tate brothers got arrested again this week, this time by the UK government in its power to directly tell an Eastern European government what to do with those who are indeed dangerously famous. Yeah, I don't think I'll be going to Eastern Europe for this year's ICMI, folks. It feels ever so suspiciously like a TARP. Yeah, I know it's not in Romania. it's in Hungary. And Hungary is supposed to be one of those last holdouts of a non-communist stronghold, but so was Poland until quite recently. now they're already gulagging the farmers. It's remarkable how quickly the tables can turn like that. Sorry, got off on multiple tangents there, but hey, it's the news show. Might as well.
Yeah, it's some ground to cover. Yeah.
Might as well make use of all the doom scrolling I've been doing lately. Hey, did you hear about the cannibal holocaust going on?
Yeah.
To a border near you. I love this.
I think the rapture already happened and we're just stuck here. I think Akira Toriyama was the last one to leave. The rapture happened and we were not informed. Anyway, I just want to say one thing that I think is ironically funny about this Rust thing. Alec Baldwin was famous in recent history for his ability to do an impression of Donald Trump. Donald Trump was lambasted by the media when he jokingly boasted that he could shoot someone in Times Square in the middle of the day and he probably would get away with it. And then Alec Baldwin, who does a Trump impression, shoots and kills someone on the set. I don't know. Is it karma? It's just, there is something about that I think is interesting. It's an interesting set of circumstances. And to my knowledge, Trump has yet to shoot anyone, but his impersonator did. So there you go. Hannah, do you want to say anything about this?
Yeah, it's good to see a woman held accountable for something that she did. She seems to also be being held accountable by Mr. Morrissey, or by Miss Morrissey in for something that she didn't do, which was controlling Mr. Baldwin. I hope that holding this woman accountable doesn't prevent holding Mr. Baldwin accountable, because nobody should put their hands on a firearm without understanding what they are, what they're capable of, and how you should respect them. Even if you are using blanks, you should be very careful. Even if you are using just a noisemaker and smoke, you should still be very careful, because they're not toys and they shouldn't be played with. And it seems like that's what he was doing, was playing with it like a toy. And it seems like it's always gun grabbers that want to do that. Oh, this isn't a big deal, I can handle it, I'm going to play with this like it's a toy. Kaboom, gee, I accidentally hurt someone or killed someone. It's the gun's fault. It's the fault of the person who put it in my hands. It's the fault of the person who failed to control me. Not, it's my fault for pointing this at a person and pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
He should still be charged. He should still be facing a jury too. It was right that she was charged and was facing a jury because she handled things incorrectly. But that isn't a zero-sum game. Right? Just like,
Yeah.
if I leave my keys in my running car and somebody steals it and they run over somebody with it, we are both guilty under Ohio law. I believe it's state law, not local law, but I know it is true locally. Either way, that both of us would be charged, and both of us would be economically liable for any losses by the family. Even though all I did was try to warm up my car, and I shouldn't have had to anticipate having it stolen from me. If I do facilitate that by making it easier, I'm still liable and I'm still considered guilty. You are responsible for the effects of your actions. And it is, like I said, it is good to see accountability here. At least, she didn't get out of it because she's female. I wish that would happen more often.
Yeah. I don't know if this sentence, just to reiterate, 18 months in prison and $5,000 as fines, I don't know if that is like standard or close to standard for this crime.
For involuntary manslaughter, it might be because of the
Yeah,
involuntary
involuntary
nature.
manslaughter. Right. I mean, it might be, but 18 months, that's like, what is that, like a year and a half? So it's not too bad at all. She might get out earlier for good behavior.
I have seen other cases locally that were similar in how short the sentence was, where in Ohio, if you are the person that administers the dose in somebody's overdose, that's considered manslaughter. And I'm not sure if it's involuntary or not, but some of those sentences are that short as well.
Somebody in the chat is saying that 18 months is the max you can get in New Mexico.
So that's
they gave her the maximum.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess wanted to give you guys the follow-up. I don't know if what's going to happen with Alec Baldwin, if there's charges against him or whatever. I remember us reporting on it before. As far as Hannah Gutierrez Reed goes, I don't think she's DEI hire, but I do think she's a nepotism hire. So pretty darn similar. I think she got the job because she knew somebody and didn't really have a lot of experience with that position. I think that's that's sort of the same reasons why DEI stuff goes to shit. So there's that. All right, with that said, we'll get into the next story because we have a couple that are going to be pretty big. So let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. But I did get a super chow from Richard Bier. He gives us $5 and says, so after the foot licking in Oklahoma, another clip surfaced showing armpit licking. Well, that was something I didn't need to know. Was it in the school? In the school? Why aren't there FBI agents like kicking the door down over there? What the heck is going on? Anyway, so let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're gonna move on to the next story. So let us know what you guys think, and I look forward to seeing your thoughts on this. Okay, so this is a kind of a sad one, but we gotta share it. So the anime industry mourns the sudden and tragic loss of Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, who passed away at the age of 68 due to acute subdural hematoma. Eiichiro Oda and Masashi Kishimoto, which are other mangaka or creators of One Piece and Naruto, respectively, wrote eulogies expressing deep respect for Toriyama's influence on the anime world. Toriyama was involved in multiple projects, including the ongoing Dragon Ball Super manga. Shonen Jump collected various tributes from creators, highlighting the significant impact of Toriyama's work on shonen manga and the international spread of anime during the 1990s. The future of Dragon Ball may involve collaboration with Toriyama's son, Sasuke Toriyama, and Dragon Ball Super artist Toyotaro. The anime community mourns the loss of a legendary creator. And I know that this was like last week, I think late last week, that we learned about this news. There was a story going around that I wish was true, that said that for 24 hours there was a ceasefire amongst cartel gangs over the death of Toriyama. I was like, oh man, because we Latinos love Dragon Ball. So yeah, it's funny because Dragon Ball Z, it's not the only thing he did, but it's obviously the most popular. It was basically loved globally, universally by everyone. It literally like spits in the face of all of this like DEI representation garbage, because it was just loved universally, like to a degree that I thought was almost unreasonable. but like my brother loved Dragon Ball, and I like Dragon Ball. But I never got into it like they did. So, and it had an influence on all manga in Japan, like not just there, probably all over the world ever since. Like it's not just a show, right? It was a phenomenon. It was a milestone in creative artistic history. There's nothing like it. So yeah, man, F's in the chat for Toriyama. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this guy, but
People are mentioning in the chat, what could be the cause, and it can be from something like that, from falling and hitting your head, or it can be from causes of medicine that you've been put on for high blood pressure, or from a stroke, or from a car accident, inflicted injury. It's rare that it's just spontaneous with an unknown cause, but I didn't see any reporting on what was the cause. So I would advise against speculation, and the only thing I'll say about the potential causes for it is that it's a good idea to be aware if you have family members that are, maybe over the age of 50, over a little overweight, or have high blood pressure and stuff like that, of the signs of stroke. And obviously, if you have someone close to you that's been in a car accident and had something like whiplash, or hit their head, or been assaulted and had their head hit, just be aware of the signs of brain injury or traumatic brain injury, because that can cause this type of side effect. So, but it's not something that we know, or at least I missed. If there was an article that explained how it happened, I missed that.
yeah, I don't think there's anything that goes into specifics.
It's
So
just a sad thing that happened. That
yeah, it's very tragic.
Very
But
missed.
yeah, he will be missed for sure. And yeah, it just reminds you, like, you never know when your time has come. Like, we are not promised tomorrow. And it kind of reminds me of, in a way, another men's rights activist that used to make content on YouTube named Prince of Queens, who I met at ICMI 2019. And shortly after, he spent the whole weekend there with us in the summer heat of August in Chicago. And shortly after he returned, he fell in the shower and died. It was just like out of nowhere. So yeah, it is, I don't know, it is a shame, but I'm glad that I was alive and I'm around for this kind of stuff. The work that Prince of Queens did, I think you can still find his videos on YouTube. I'm not really sure. And they were good. And also, Toriyama, which is really what we're talking about here. I mean, again, it's like other manga artists or creators, like the guy who made One Piece and the guy who made Naruto, which are huge right now. They said that Toriyama's work was like a great tree that branches out into like all four corners of the globe, and it has influence, and everyone loved this stuff universally. You go to like the hood, and people, like, they got like Dragon Ball Z stuff, like tattoos. Everyone loved it. It united people, is what I'm saying. And to add, well, we'll get to it later, but like the wokies hate this stuff. They hated it. Like when he died, there were people like making comments about how racist his content was. I mean, because like, there's no such thing as like honoring somebody or understanding that they come from like a completely different culture. No. We have to measure them by our subjective standards. But anyway, I'm not trying to make this about rage. I'm just saying that, his work was loved. He was loved. It's a sad thing to see him go, but what he's left behind will probably stick around for a long time. And thoughts go out to his family and his loved ones. And just thanks for the memories.
On that note, I thought I'd look up a few quotes from.
You what?
I looked up a few quotes from the man himself, a few tidbits of poetic wisdom to sort of play us out. I might do this every time we're in obituary mode. Seems like a sort of a poignant and possibly lifting.
Oh, that's nice.
So here's a few that I found. Quote: nightmares never last. One day you'll wake up and they're gone. Simple but true, based and white-pilled to a reasonable degree.
Yeah.
Quote, too much fantasy loses reality. Too much hope may seem somehow empty. End quote. Based and black-pilled to a reasonable degree. A balanced diet. It's what you really need in life.
The yin and the yang.
Indeed. Quote, move well, study well, play well, eat well, rest well. That is the Turtle Master way. End quote. It is. I mean, it's generally the way. Quote, you can't just look at someone and determine whether or not they're a good person. End quote. So true. I see far too many people doing that and calling it a physiognomy check. And it's almost always just phrenology. It's random superstitious judgment, like a horoscope that you pulled out of your ass or something. Listen to Toriyama-san. He knows all about faces. Quote, I am not at all particular about things like hairstyles and colors, especially with women. Changing their hairstyle or color is a bit too commonplace, don't you think? End quote. Indeed.
Lol.
It's just asking for a physiognomy check, or a fashion check, if you will. That's probably the whole point. Quote, I believe that comics are entirely for entertainment. End quote. That's all we need to know regarding where he might stand on Comicsgate or any of the other gates, I think. I would certainly hope so. Quote, I'm personally not terribly interested in designing wholesome characters, so I don't have many variations to offer. End quote. Good lad. Wholesome is cringe and gay. In any case, it can't be forced. It only happens incidentally. And, you know, he created something that is weirdly wholesome because he wasn't trying. That's the point. Quote, I'm not the kind of person who enjoys big crowds very much. End quote. Based. Quote, when I look at it, I don't really like people and socializing is really awful. Outside of my family, friends, and those connected to my job, I don't think I actively want to meet anyone. I've always lived in the country after all. End quote. So based. Super based. I love this guy. Quote, come to think of it, even though I've received tons of fan letters and presents from everyone, I've never written anyone back. How rude of me. End quote. Unbelievably based. Based beyond belief. Based beyond my comprehensions. All right, one more for the road. Quote, I'd want to be born once more as myself, but more talented. End quote. There you go. Maybe he's being reincarnated as we speak in another wee Japanese badass somewhere out in the country. This time with an IQ of over 9,000.
Oh, all right. That's good. Any other final thoughts before we move on? Okay, well, rest in peace, Toriyama. And, you know, your legacy is pretty much secured. I won't let them, like, dunk on you. All right, so I got a super chow from R.I.P. Toriyama. Gives us $5 and says, fun trivia fact, the original design of the Super Saiyan did not have golden blonde hair nor blue eyes. Toriyama was just working under a tight schedule and decided to not color in the hair or the eyes to speed up the work. Okay, because mangas are done in black and white, so they don't usually have color. So what he's saying is he just drew the outline of the hair, did not color it in, and put it out like that, and the eyes as well. Because normally he would give them black eyes and black hair. So I guess that was a happy accident. to be honest, thank you for that bit of trivia, R.I.P. Toriyama. All right, so let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments, and we will move on to the next story. I look forward to your thoughts. So, all right, next story. This is kind of a bigger one, a bit more meat on this bone. So you might have seen this like viral video that was all over Twitter of this violent fight. There's but I'm gonna go into that now. So a violent fight near Hazelwood East High School in St. Louis has left a student in critical condition with severe head injury. The incident captured in a disturbing video, has prompted community leaders, including James Clark from the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis, to call for an end to violence. The Hazelwood School District expressed condolences and emphasized the need for collective efforts to address bullying and fighting in the community. St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney Wesley Bell described the video as sickening, and a student wishing to remain anonymous emphasized the importance of ending violence and seeking justice. The Hazelwood School District Board of Education has been selected to receive the 2022 North County Incorporated Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Leadership Award. So so there was this video, you probably saw it, of these two children, these two girls, they were fighting on the street, and there was like a brawl going on around them. Now, different people have shared this video in like different lengths, like some people cut off the beginning, but it was, from what we know, it was two girls that intentionally started a fight. So it wasn't like somebody sucker punched somebody else, or there was a knockout game or anything like that. And there was a lot of like buzz because it was a black girl and a white girl, and so this became a kind of racialized issue based on that. But the way the fight goes is the black girl pins the white girl to the ground, she gets the upper hand, and she starts bashing her head on the concrete. And the girl is convulsing and spasming and laying on the ground, okay? If you guys have seen the video, you know, it's violent. I don't want to show it on here because I don't know what'll happen if I do, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to have to describe it. From what I understand, the white girl who had her head bashed in, she ended up in a hospital. She's still in the hospital. There were people saying on the net that she died, but as far as we know, that's not the case. She is in critical condition, according to the last report, unless there's something new that recently came out, okay? Now, all of that being what it is, it became a discussion about, you know, racial violence and this other stuff. And sure, we can talk about that because it was only made available or like made known by social media, not the news, like the mainstream, sort of like, you know, what do you call it? Cable news, like CNNs, the MSNBCs, they weren't covering it. It was only local news and people sharing on social media, which of course is convenient because, you know, unless white people want to burn down a Target, that's not like going to be a problem. However, that's not really what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is this. I'm going to share this with you guys. So this school district received an award. And this is the link here, and it says the Hazelwood School District Board of Education has been selected to receive the 2022 North County Incorporated NCI Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Leadership Award. The board has spent many hours working to provide strong governance and support to the district and community in the areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion, Dr. Nettie Collins-Hart, superintendent of HSD, said. This award recognizes the board's commitment to ensuring that our district respects and appreciates the diversity in our employees and students and provides an inclusive environment. This is the board's second award for its work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. In November of 2021, the board received a 2021 Outstanding Government Achievement Award from the East-West Gateway Council of Governments. So this DEI award, and this whole thing is set up around so not only the staffing, not only the hiring, but also the treatment of the students. So if there was a girl, this black girl that smashed this white girl's head in, if she had a history, because I don't think this came out of the blue, right, of this kind of behavior, the DEI policies would make it difficult to correct the behavior because they have to essentially, like, she is of a protected class. And I'll say, like, I did some substitute teaching, and in the schools that I've subbed for, you're not supposed to we're not allowed to touch the students at all. But the students are generally like well behaved, you know, around here. This doesn't really happen. But I think here you have let me see if I can explain this. So since there was a racial equality policy that they passed in 2021, it stemmed from the Statement of Solidarity. The board has engaged in vigorous exchanges of ideas and taken concrete action steps to progress diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in the district Throughout the process, the board has been insistent that HST stakeholders be an integral part of the process. So this is like, think of it like this. A lot of blue cities across the country, after the Floyd riots, there were policies that were changed at the state and city levels to essentially ensure that there would not be any more police violence or police brutality, okay? And to do that, they went soft on crime. This is the same policy, it's just applied at the school level. So this incident that happened probably couldn't have been avoided completely if it weren't for this DEI, ESG stuff in the schools, because it's affecting how the teachers and how the faculty and staff can essentially discipline the students, which is to say, if they're black, they can't, because that would be targeted based on race, right? Even if the odds are higher that black students are going to be more violent, which statistically
avoided, it was arguably caused by these.
Yes,
I'll get into that when you finish the riot.
Yeah, well, anyway, let me just wrap this up, because I'm pointing out why this is unique, because I'm people are just looking at the violent act, but I'm saying, like, this is a policy issue. Okay, so the Hazelwood School District, or the board, recently approved the district's first diversity, equity, and inclusion action plan. The Hazelwood School District Board of Education is built for this journey, said Diane Livingston, president of the board. We are firm in our commitment to create a nurturing, diverse, equitable, and inclusive learning environment for all HSD students and employees. The HSD Board of Education will accept the award at the 45th Annual NCI Leadership Breakfast on May 6, 2022. And the last thing I'll say to that, to add it, is that this DEI stuff, this approach is it's in schools all across the country. This school won an award for it, so it's like extra hands off. Get it? So anyway, that's the write-up. I don't know if you guys follow what I'm saying, but
yeah, but I'll wait till after Mike has his say.
Like you said, I should think we've all seen the footage by now, maybe even with the sound on. Oddly, the sound is kind of the most disturbing thing about it. That ringing crack of skull against concrete. It was a poor choice of words when they said the board has engaged in vigorous exchanges of ideas and taken concrete action steps to progress diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah, that's kind of exactly what we saw and heard in that video. DEI taking action right on the concrete steps. It's like that one scene in American History X, except it's race swapped, as so many things are these days. Also, it's
gender swapped.
It's what is it? Real. It actually happened. It's not fictional. It's very real. A very similar thing happened to George Zimmerman back in the day. If he wasn't armed, it would have been the exact same thing, and we never would have heard about it, because the white guy would have died. I mean, it's funny about it. Well, although we only have Zimmerman's word for it, so yeah, I guess I'm speculating. But by now, I'm sure we've all seen many videos online of men fighting in the street of all ages, and I've never seen them do that. Even when men are mortal enemies, they still have enough of a conscience, enough of a sense of fair play, not to use a concrete slab as a weapon. If your opponent so much as accidentally hits their head on the ground hard enough to make a noise like that, the fight is over. This chick was... I don't even know what was going on in her mind. How do you not know that you're killing someone at that point? I mean, maybe she was actually trying to kill her. One way or another, she clearly just didn't give a shit. It's almost as though she's been taught that other people don't matter. It's as though she somehow got it into her head that she can do no wrong because she's female, and she can do no wrong to white people because they're white. Might that be exactly what she's being taught in that school? So sometimes it's called DEI, sometimes it's called CRT, sometimes it's called something studies. It doesn't matter what you're renaming it to in the latest attempt to worm out of what you're doing. How many times can the people you've designated as lower on the hierarchy get brutally beaten by the people you've designated as higher before it occurs to you that this caste system of yours is in some way responsible for any of this? At the moment, it's looking like never. Because every time it happens, you push it even further. These people never ask themselves, when has it gone too far? They never even think to ask it because they don't have an answer other than never. No matter what happens, it's never too far. When you've reached that point, you have chosen the form of your destructor. You cannot and will not realize the error of your ways until the moment it is killing you. And even then, you'll just blame it on white men. With your last fucking breath, you will still cling to the lie that has killed you. We need to walk away in any capacity in which we're still allowed to walk away. And that very much includes never letting your children anywhere near a school, especially not a school that does this, that deliberately divides its students into this hierarchy and turns them against each other and forever claims they're doing the benevolent opposite of the evil they're clearly committing. Because there is no end in sight to that madness. It will persist beyond the excesses that you thought were even possible. Let's break out the C.S. Lewis quote. I'm sure you'll know the one. I think that it too describes a nightmare of which the man himself could not have predicted its aptitude. Quote, "Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep, his cupidity may at some point be satiated, but those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience." End quote. Discuss.
I will point out a few things in regard to violence. There are guys that will be this violent. They're usually messed up in some way or another. It's not normal. But it is sadly normal for girls and even women in fights to do shit like that. Guys grow up testing each other's boundaries and learning that you don't cross certain boundaries in a fight unless you want to give the other guy permission to cross those boundaries too. And like I said, it's the guys that are truly messed up that cross them, and they're usually the ones that will mug you in the street and or fight back when there's no way of winning against a mugger in the street, or get violent when they're drunk. And then there's another behavior that happens with fighting. There's a level of rage you can hit, or a level of fear you can hit, that causes you to completely lose your mind in terms of your actions, where you don't think about what you're doing, you don't have an attachment to what you're doing. And it's the most dangerous state of mind, because you lose the ability to moderate your actions in that circumstance. And you're very lucky if you have if you've experienced that. You're very lucky if you've been stopped, or if you've come to your senses before you kill someone. Then you only have to remember the look on their face and the way they screamed before you stopped. But unfortunately, with this particular situation, that type of rage and that type of fear are being indoctrinated into people on the basis of race, and on the basis of sex, on the basis of religion, every aspect of DEI. They're not just telling people that this or that demographic doesn't matter. They're telling people of certain demographics to hate them, to be afraid of them, to resent them, to want them dead, to feel hard, not just hard done by, but damaged, wounded constantly by them, wounded by their existence, wounded by their presence. And they're telling those demographics to view the perpetrator demographics, the oppressor demographics, whatever the label is, as tainted by virtue of existing in their demographic. So you're not just looking at, when you look at this, you're not just looking at a fight. You're looking at a political history. You're looking at one girl who may have been taught to view the other girl not just as someone who doesn't matter, someone she can take her frustrations out on, but someone who actively deserves punishment for who she is and what she is. And someone who has, by virtue of existing, caused her harm that she should be retaliating against. That kind of rage, inflicting that kind of rage on someone, falsely, artificially, it's every bit as cruel as what they're doing to the kids in sex education, who they're convincing, oh yeah, you have gender dysphoria, when they don't, right? This is demographic dysphoria, in a way, right? They're putting upon children and adolescents an experience that nobody should have to go through, and they are putting upon their compatriots in class who could have been their friends, who they could have good memories with, who they could have great reunions with 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, and catch up. What are you doing now? Oh, I'm doing this. What are you doing now? Oh, I'm doing this. Isn't that great? Right? No, they are killing their childhood, killing their good spirit, their healthy spirit, their chance to be happy together as people who enjoyed the same experiences growing up. They're destroying their childhood, and they're robbing them of experiences that and relationships that everybody has a right to choose how they form. It is one of the cruelest things about modern politics, what is being done to our children in the name of politics. I wouldn't wish that kind of memories on anybody, and I wouldn't wish being on the other end of it on anybody. And now 2 kids have permanently learned to hate and fear each other. And I will bet that if the adults in their lives hadn't interfered, they would never have developed those reasons. That breaks my heart.
Yep. I think that's true. Well, I think 2 lives have been ruined by this, because I'm guessing that the girl who did the assault is going to be, tried for something. We'll follow up when we learn more. And the girl who's in the hospital, if she survives, she's probably never going to be the same. If she survives. Well, right now we don't know, but we'll see. It didn't look good, though.
Neither one of them's never going to be the same. Even if the girl who engaged in the violence isn't held as accountable as she should be held, she will still, she'll hit our age, and she'll have those memories, and she'll have a filter of adulthood to look back through at those memories.
Yeah.
And she will never forget what she did. She'll just have to be ashamed of it for the rest of her life.
Well, hopefully. She might not be, which is even more darker, but possible.
Yeah, it might make her a harder, more callous, less relatable person too.
Entirely. And she could take that out on her kids or God knows what. So we'll see. But yeah, let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. And I got a big super chow from Meredith G, and I got it fits though, so that's cool. She gives us $10. Thank you, Meredith, and says HBR News 447. Gutierrez Reed was a diversity/nepotism hire. Here is my problem with the verdict. I'm concerned that Baldwin and other producers will not be held accountable. The job in question calls for 2 armorers, not 1, that is also doing other prop work. That decision meant instead of spending $30,000 per person, they got 1 person to do the jobs of all 3, and an experienced armorer would have cost more. This is the advantage of diversity hires. They can be cheap. Who made the budgeting decision? The producers, of which Alec Baldwin was one, along with his agent, who has also budgeted a 6-figure salary for the film. And it's a perfect storm because a young female with hypo agency is the right kind of idiot to be at the center of a tragedy that would have been prevented or could have been prevented by hiring experienced men who have no problem enforcing safety on spoiled movie stars. This was about getting cheap labor and diversity points to maximize profit and make sure their egotistical asshole who is behind this project is never told no. Yeah, I think that's right. And I mean, Alec Baldwin is the producer, so the buck stops with him, which was what we said, previously as well. So we'll see what happens. I think they are going to try and pass the buck though. Thank you, Meredith. Really appreciate it. Mitchell Bier gives us $5 and says, at least the black girl didn't catch a bullet from a police officer to trying to intervene in the equivalent of a teenage knife fight like what happened in Ohio. Yeah, I remember that from like a while back. Every time something like this happens, there's basically the media just sees it as an opportunity. And the grifters and the race baiters and the ambulance chasers and all of that. And it just needs to be the right kind of scenario, but didn't work out. I mean, it's a really tragic thing that happened, but at least I guess it's not resulting in a spring of love. But we'll see. I've been saying this since the beginning of the year. Something will inevitably happen this year, and it will be used to create a gigantic crisis. And I mean, like, worse than 2020. Because it is 2024. Anyway.
Yeah,
let us know what you guys
gearing up for it.
Absolutely. They've already created the conditions for it. Like, right. Why do you think the borders are open? Yeah. So let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I'm going to move on to the final story, and I look forward to seeing what your thoughts are. So, all right. So we're going to be talking again about Gamergate. But now it's official, and this is kind of a big story. And I think it's important. So I've been covering little developments on the channel Honey Badger Arcade. Please subscribe to Honey Badger Arcade. There's a link in the description so you can see lots of the little stories that I've been covering, as well as some things that are sort of related but not directly, like the notion or the ideas of stochastic entryism, as a means to get in to these industries. But anyway, Mike J provided this write-up. So it's amazing to think that it's been a decade since the consumer revolt focused on ethics in video game journalism, better known as Gamergate, began. But an unexpected series of events, a dodgy video game consulting firm, a community of fed-up gamers, one Steam curator group, and a bit of sleuthing has reignited the supposedly dead firestorm. It all started towards the end of January when Steam user Cabrutus started both a Steam group as well as a curated Steam list. Steam is, it's a program you can use. It's like an online store you can use to buy and play games. So in case you don't know what Steam is, some of you guys are boomers. So Steam's curator function allows users a place to have all of their reviews or games collected in one area so that other users can see it. So I can make a curated, Steam page, and I can put here are all the games I played, and here are the ones I like, and here are the ones I don't like, or whatever, right? Pretty straightforward. It's basically like a good way to advertise your products but through word of mouth, because if my friends like something, then I'm probably more likely to like it or whatever. Strangely, Cabrutus only had one metric in his reviews: if the game in question had any relation to the video game consultancy firm Sweet Baby Inc. or not. In fact, the only games reviewed were games that had some connection to Sweet Baby Inc., and none of them were recommended by him. but there was no malice implied by these reviews, no calls to action, no harassment against the consultancy firm or the game studios that they were linked to, not even a suggestion of boycott. The About section was simply one sentence that reads, "A tracker for games involved with Sweet Baby Inc." Kabrutus' Steam curation page and Steam group page, both of which use the same name, Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, and both remained rather inactive for most of February, but then it was picked up by the wider internet and Sweet Baby Inc. themselves. Before we continue, it's important to learn exactly what Sweet Baby Inc. is, and that can be rather confusing. If you trust Sweet Baby Inc., they are nothing more than a Canadian-based video game narrative development and consultation studio, and their mission is to help bring inclusion and diversity into the narratives of the games that they work on. For example, if a game is to feature a group of people from a certain ethnicity, they would look over things such as character dialogue and interactions to make sure none of it is accidentally racist, and therefore protect the game developers from their own ignorance. And while on the surface, that is what they claim to be, in practice, they do the opposite. From shoehorning in so-called diverse characters, deriding straight white male characters, which the CEO openly does all the time, by the way. She hates straight white men. And overall making the game worse, Sweet Baby Inc. has had their fingers in some of the worst games of the last few years, such as the much derided Suicide Squad kills the Justice League. If you find it strange that a company like that can exist, or is even still in business, it's important to know just who is pulling the strings and making these payments. Looking behind Sweet Baby Inc., we find another company, Baby Ghosts. Baby Ghosts bills themselves as a peer accelerator, offering grants, mentorship, and professional connections to marginalized developers in order to combat bias, barriers, and systemic norms. Looking at the eligibility for such a grant, recipients must be Canadian, from a minority group, have at least 2 members, and be building a video game studio with a cooperative model. Applicants must also be interested in making a social impact and place an emphasis on community. So we have a company that places a large emphasis on bringing in non-white, diverse minorities to work on game design, and they seemingly have a lot of money to throw around as they are offering grants of up to $250,000. But the question must be asked, who is behind them? Behind Baby Ghosts, we find Weird Ghosts. Weird Ghosts is yet another funding group dedicated to empowering Canadian minorities to shape the future of games, so very much like Baby Ghosts. Looking at the people behind Weird Ghosts, one name in particular stands out. Eileen Mary Holoka. Aside from referring to herself as a queer and disabled white settler living on Treaty 1 territory in Winnipeg, because when you're Canadian, you have to tell us whose stolen land you live on. She is the sister, she has only one notable connection to the video games industry. She is the sister of Alec Holoka. Who is Alec Holoka? Alec Holoka, for those who don't know or who have forgotten, was responsible for the smash hit indie games Night in the Woods and Aquaria. Alec is also known for being accused of abuse, sexual in nature, by former girlfriend Zoe Quinn, a name most people should recognize. Alec would eventually, because his life was destroyed by this, commit suicide over the allegations. And we now know that his sister inherited his multi-billion-dollar gaming company and created all these ghost startup companies in order to further infect gaming with her progressive rot. Fast forward back to the Steam curator group, Sweet Baby Inc. Detected. Once they caught the attention of the media and Sweet Baby Inc. themselves, they became the victim of a campaign of harassment which aimed to see both the Steam page and the creator banned. So, I don't know if he points this out, because Mike J did the write-up for this, but I interviewed Kabrutus on my channel, Honey Badger Arcade, yesterday. There is a stream. We went for about an hour, and I spoke to him. And he lives in Brazil, and he was telling me that in Brazil, video games are very expensive. And so, because Brazil money is shit, because they have a commie in power right now, because they apparently stole the election from Bolsonaro like a while back when they took over recently. But that is another conversation entirely. But the point is, his games are really expensive, and if they ban him from Steam, he will lose access to all of his games, his whole library. So they're not just like kicking him out of a community. They're literally stealing from him if they kick him off the platform. So anyway, I'm gonna go. I just wanted to put that out there. So they aim to see him both the Steam page and the curator banned. This charge was led by another ghost from Gamergate's past, Maya Felix Kramer, aka Lego Butts, former crony of Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian, and Chris Kindred, yet another ghost with connections to all the aforementioned companies. Despite their rallying efforts, Steam officially announced that no action would be taken against either the curator's page, or Kabrutus himself. In the wake of this, the usual progressive gaming website started up again, decrying the Steam creator group and its creator while defending Sweet Baby Inc. Oh, they called them harassers, sexist, misogynist, racist, conspiracy theorists for, basically saying this is what's happening. And there's more to that too that I could get into later. But ultimately, this drama could have been a great big nothing, but due to the meddling of the terminally offended and the Streisand effect that prompted such armchair detectives to do some digging, we might just have ourselves a Gamergate 2.0. And I want to add to this as well that Sweet Baby Inc. and all of the affiliates associated with it are not simply trying to get people removed from the platform, and they're not only going to all the usual suspects: Kotaku, The Guardian, The Gamer, PC Gamer. There's lots of others. People on LinkedIn have been threatened if they discuss this topic. They have the Department of Homeland Security looking into it. So this is like turning into something pretty major. But on the plus side, I will say that unlike in 2014, people that are involved in this appear to be well aware of what we're really up against, and that it's not just about ethics in journalism. Okay, but anyway, that's all I will say about that.
It's interesting. You're a terrorist now if you have a profession or a hobby, an area of interest, right? A major thing in your life that's very important to you. And when somebody from outside of that, that's not involved with you, that doesn't have your interests in mind, that doesn't have the welfare of the area of interest in mind, doesn't have the welfare of the hobby or the profession or whatever in mind, they've got a totally different thing in mind and they want to insert it in that. Now, if they attempt to do that and you notice, like, not even object, not even say you're not welcome here, not even say I'm not participating in what you're doing, just you notice, now you're a terrorist for noticing. That's where the goalposts have moved for them. That should tell you how much consent means to them. They don't just want to do it without your consent or against your will. You're not even allowed to express awareness that it's happening. That's pretty nefarious right there.
Yeah, and they can't stand the notion that look, this Kabrutus, I interviewed him yesterday, okay? I got to tell you about this guy. He is not a political philosopher. He doesn't have an interest in any of the stuff that we talk about. He's just a guy, just a regular guy. He's about as regular as it comes, and he just cares about when he invests money in a game, he wants it to be good, and he had a bad experience, and he was like, who's behind this? And he saw a pattern, and he shared it, and he was like, look, I'm not into this stuff. No one ever called for a boycott. No one ever said you can't support these people. All they did was say, here's a list of games that they've worked on. And by the way, Sweet Baby Inc. is not the cause. They are simply a symptom, because there are plenty of companies just like them all over, not just the video games industry, but basically every industry. It comes back to they do this stuff to get money from companies like BlackRock. That's what they're doing, because they're not selling games. Just like the movies that tank, it doesn't matter, because they get their payola from BlackRock, from these gigantic conglomerates that are trying to, essentially what they're doing is they're trying to engineer culture by changing behavior. And so when you say, look, as a person who lives in a market where I can still decide how to spend my money, I'm not going to spend it on that. That's what they don't like. So it's not that they don't like that you don't like their product. It's that they don't want you to be able to choose. They want to force you to do what they're gonna do. You know, live in the pod, eat the bugs, and play the shitty games. So that's not what I think. That's what's happening. That's why they're mad.
The same thing is happening in other areas with other things. Like there's a local grocery store that I will not name in this area that is slowly eliminating products that are not their store brand. And I've been watching this happen for the last 10 years. Like all of the cheese that is not their store brand of cheese, except a few select choices, have disappeared. And I have a feeling that those few select choices have paid to be on their shelves or given them a break to be on their shelves. Because when I worked in grocery distribution in a pharmacy of all places that sold groceries, that's how a lot of things got on the shelf, was that they gave a deal or gave a break or gave a kickback in order to get there. But it's interesting to watch because you make an effort to get the things that you want, and you complain, well, these things aren't on the shelf anymore, and they will tell you, well, it's because nobody's been buying them for the last so many months. Well, yeah, you haven't had them on the shelf for that long. It's been off the shelf for 6 months now. Well, it's been off the shelf because nobody's buying it. And when it's really the other way around, it's nobody's buying it because it's been off the shelf. If they take over every corner of your hobby or your profession or your area of interest, and find ways to insert the thing you don't want into every available outlet and every available product, every available interaction with the thing that you're interested in, that takes away your ability to choose their absence. It takes away your ability to choose engagement with your interest without their interference. And that's what's happening here. Different companies come in and insist that every outlet, every product creator, every publisher, every engagement with you, the public, be done through them, or include them, or involve them, or be guided by them. And now they're mad because people are noticing, and people might object. People might want something they didn't have control over. And that is basically how that they force you to comply, by taking away your option of non-compliance. And again, consent doesn't matter to them, right?
Nope.
That is essentially how you override someone's consent without them realizing it, how you override someone's objections without them being able to stop you, is you cut off every avenue they can take to object. You cut off every alternative until there is no way for them to do the thing, whatever the thing is. There is no way for them to have the thing without complying with your demands. And it's when they insert it into hobbies and people complain, well, the argument is it's just a hobby. Why are you so mad? Except it is some people's profession, right? And they're not just inserting it into hobbies. They're inserting it into your workplace. They're inserting it into your banking. They're inserting it into your media. They're inserting it into your social media. Like, there is no area of your life. They're inserting it into your medical treatment. You can't go to the doctor without consenting to this by default because you don't have an alternative. You can't go to a pharmacy and get medication for your medical conditions without this. You can't go to the grocery store and buy food without this interference. There is no place left that is not being interfered with. Not even your church. So
Yep.
when people act like, this is something that's not nefarious, that people are going overboard objecting to, that you're not being tolerant of other people when you don't allow this to take over your hobby, your area of interest, your workplace, whatever it is that you're looking at the moment. What they're actually doing is pretty much the same thing that child molesters do to children when they're grooming them. They make you the bad guy for saying no. They make you the bad guy for having boundaries. Right? They make you the bad guy for noticing what's going on and noticing that something might be wrong about it and speaking up about it. Even just quietly, even saying, "You're doing this to me." Not, "I object to you doing this." Just, "You did this." That's it. They're objecting to you even being aware of what is happening. That is terrifying.
And again, I'm glad that you pointed this out. It's easy to dismiss this as simply affecting video games, but like Hannah said, this is much bigger than that. So if you are here because I know that there are some people there that might know me from or are here because of like Honey Badger Arcade stuff that I've done. Yeah, I hope you realize that the scale of this is bigger. And there's plenty. This is the thing that I think is a little bit heartening, is that there are content creators that are more vocal and they're more hardcore and they're less cucked that are talking about this, and they're really sick of it because this has been a pattern in our culture for like the past decade at least, and people are really sick of it, and they're doing some digging and they're figuring this shit out. I'll make some recommendations. I would look up Kyle C. I'm gonna spell this wrong. Cyael. Nerd Wars is very good. And I think even Side Scrollers has been doing some stuff. So, check that stuff up. Cabrutus is cool. I think that he's just a normal guy that got swept up in something. He's probably going to be like backing away, and I get it because there's a lot and it's very heavy. So all I would say is, in the meantime, if you are, and oh, by the way, it's worth pointing out that this stuff only happens in male hobbies. Like this stuff only happens when men invest in something and men get excited about something. That's the first thing to go, because women are not going to stand up for them. So, or at least not in droves.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's happening in male hobbies because when people approach women with this stuff, they don't object to it as much. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
They just go along with it, right? You have to change what you're doing. You have to basically change your hobby so that even though nothing in your hobby is about politics, our whole political set of ideals has to become entrenched in it and part of it, and your hobby has to become about that primarily, and the hobby itself is now secondary to it, right? For Silvertongue, who doesn't understand what this is that we're talking about, if you go back to the point where we read the Gamergate 2 article, where Brian read the Gamergate 2 article, that explains what this is.
Yeah.
But I just kind of gave a summary there as well.
We're just trying to protect ourselves from cultural vandalism, iconoclasty. It's like, you remember when, was it ISIS that went into temples and were like destroying, statues? This is that.
Yeah.
When environmental activists
of that.
Yeah, like when environmental activists like basically like put grease or paint all over like classic works of art like the Mona Lisa. Yeah, that's what this is. It's just in our culture, in our popular culture. So
yeah. Yep.
And last time,
but yeah, it's Dave. You can.
What?
He says you're broadcasting live. I can't go back until the stream ends. How long have you been listening to this stream?
You can go back a little bit.
The stream. Because I would advise starting at an earlier point. You can do that. You actually can click back and re-listen. And you can even set it on a faster speed so that you can hear it faster. If you can listen faster. Some people can, some people can't. But that would catch you up eventually. So.
Nick, go ahead.
Brief point. Don't forget, last time this happened, the small domino became the big domino, and we ended up meme magicking ourselves into a Trump presidency and Brexit. It's long overdue. A renaissance.
Oh, I don't.
Gentlemen.
Yeah, I know people that are in denial about the connection, but I can tell you, this is why, by the way, they're freaking out so much. I've gone through a number of articles where we'll get into it in the patron show, but there's definitely a number of articles where the journalists are like, oh my God, no, not the harassment campaign, and it's an election year. Oh God, we're all gonna die. Orange man. So yeah, I don't want to say anything. All I'm saying is these people should be out of our hobby, and I don't know what to do other than tell you guys to make sure that you are informed before you spend your money. That's all. I'm not going to tell you what to spend your money on. You can do whatever you want, but be informed before you make a decision. And, I would say look at AA developers or even like indie developers more if that's what you're interested in. But anyway, with all that out of the way, I guess we will look at your super chows and wrap it up. Make sure I didn't miss any Rumble rants, because for some reason the Rumble rants don't come through. No, I did not get any. And I don't think there's any super chats either. All right, so I did get one super chow. Vivian's gonna leave. Oh, that's the wrong one. She goes, bye. I got a super chow from Richard Bieri, gives us $5 and says, perhaps this is a factor in why so many games are online only and you won't be allowed to have a physical local copy in your possession because the copy in your possession can't be altered post-purchase. The online update process in some cases does alter appearance of characters to suit particular developer preferences and can override what is stored on the physical media. Non-network devices are becoming the best options. Yes, I think that's right.
If paying for a game means you don't own it, then pirating a game is not theft. I would certainly never insinuate that you should pirate games. I would never insinuate those two words.
Was that an echo? Is there an echo in here?
Pirate games. I'm just repeating the words pirate games because they were the last two words in my sentence that I'm saying. You should never do that. Pirate games. It's the thing you should never do.
Don't ever pirate games. All right. Well, anyways, so thank you for the super chow, and we're gonna wrap this up and head into the patron only show where, speaking of Gamergate 2, we're gonna be looking at this article from, well, this is from Dual Shockers, entitled "Baldur's Gate 3 mods that glow up faces are my pet peeve." There's a couple of other ones, but they're a little too deep. But all I'm saying is get ready, because the Gamers Are Dead articles are here. They're going to keep coming, and we are doing this dance again. But hopefully this time we will finish it. So thanks guys so much for coming on the show. I hope I see you in the patron show, either in the live chat on YouTube or the Discord chat. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. Leave me a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please consider subscribing to Honey Badger Arcade. I will be giving regular updates. I don't want to burden the main channel or this channel with that news, because this channel has a specific focus. So I'm trying to do more stuff over there. Anyway, please consider doing that. And please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thanks so much for coming on today's episode of the news show, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Are machines, dude. Okay, they are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. holy shit, you're fucked.